Morning, everyone. Hope everyone is well. We'll get started very soon here. Um, so a bunch of you guys letting me know because I was not feeling well on Monday, so I didn't do a weekly outlook, and I saw a bunch of you guys, all saying good stuff to me. So I appreciate that. Everyone's asking me to take care. I do feel a lot better. I do feel a lot better compared to 2 days ago. So. Thanks everyone who were there and saw a bunch of positive messages from you guys. So I appreciate that. But I do feel better. I do feel better. So we're gonna get started in this market update. So I'll try my best to go over everything like usual, like we did. So kind of like this midweek will be like a weekly outlook slash midweek, hopefully, and we'll go from there. Okay. So. I do feel better. Thank you so much. I do feel better. Thank you. Um, so appreciate everyone who supported me there. Um, I am live in two positions. I am live in dollar CAD. I talk about dollar CAD um, after the price has broken out of this higher time frame ascending channel. Oh, sorry, I'm not changing this color. Okay. So we talk about dollar CAD after we break out of this ascending channel. I did have a position, if you guys recall from last week when I was on vacation, I did enter this trade, it pushed down, and I was looking to see if it was going to form a quick continuation to go further. Instead, when it started climbing up like this, there was a very steep kind of channel. Then I knew that we probably going to see a bigger correction to form rather than just a very steep correction. And that's how I got tagged out here for about 1.5% if I recall. And then I wanted to see if we're going to develop something further. At the time, I was looking to see if we're going to, because this was very, very sharp, like a very, very steep. So I thought we are going to get something like this and to go further. But instead, when I start seeing a little bit more channel like with a little bit more parallel ascending channel like this, and then I was kind of just waiting to see if we're going to get some sort of reversal from the top. I didn't get in from the reversal here, but I did get in on kind of like the first push down for the price and the mini correction here. And I'm fine if this wasn't the only correction it's formed, if it's going to consolidate a bit more. That's why I opted with a bigger stop loss. I got tagged in by with a pretty big 30 pip stop loss above the high in case we're going to get something like this, we're going to get a little bit deeper correction like this and go further down. That's pretty much what happened here anyways. And then, but I opted with a 30 pip stop loss, a little bit more safer. And pretty much price just tagged me in and then it's hovering around, I think, during the London session and then starting or beginning of New York session and start pushing down. So that's good. I think I just broke below this low, so I'm going to move it to break even after and looking to see if we're going to actually reach the bottom here. I think it's already about 3.3 to 1 if it does reach the bottom. But obviously my main target will be at the bottom of this structure here, right? Pretty clear this is something that we're always used to. We've seen this kind of price action all the time, right? So when we see a price push down, after if we see a consolidation here, looking for another sell down to the previous low, right? So we should get pretty good risk reward here if it does reach this low. If it breaks below this part, certainly probably another continuation will form here, and then looking for the next downside from the price. That's kind of how I would play this. But because I already entered dollar yen, I already going to move my stop loss to break even. I did also get in on Swiss yen as well. Swiss yen, I talk about this from pretty much from the higher time frame that everything from the higher time frame is still valid, right? We talk about the higher time frame impulsive phase. We talk about the higher time frame corrective parallel channel like this. We also talk about the ascending channel here as well. So everything in terms of bearish price action is out there. Recall a lot of us caught the bearish move from the beginning, and after such a sharp move, it's just natural for the price to form a bigger correction, which is kind of what we're getting here. And I like how we already have a few swing highs and few swing lows. And if we dig a little bit deeper into lower time frame, there is kind of a reason double top here, and I like how there is a head and shoulder pattern as well. So I was just looking to see if we're going to get any kind of additional bearish price. So pretty much on this right shoulder of this head and shoulder, There's pretty much another head and shoulder here if we look closely here. So I just opted with an entry order or something like this. This is where I got tagged in. I haven't moved this, but this is where I entered. I think it was 12025 if I double check. 12024, so 25, yeah. So 12025. So this is what I got tagged in here, and then I just opted with the pretty wideable stop loss 40 pip, basically above this head and shoulder height, and then I'll see how the price will play out in the coming kind of hours and days. But target wise, well, first target I'll be looking to see if we can actually hit the bottom of this higher time frame kind of ascending channel. I like how we can possibly hit it and then break out, and then certainly I can look for a continuation afterwards. But we'll see how this one goes. But right now, that's the only two positions I'm running right now: dollar yen, Swiss yen. That's about it. So, okay. Any question, let me know, and then I'm going to continue with the market outlook. All right. Good morning, good morning. Good morning, Steve. Good morning. Good morning, good morning. Nice to see you guys all. Maximum amount positions, yeah. Usually I tell everyone to go with one or two pairs. But if you already move one of them to break even, or if one of them are in profit, then you can certainly enter more, right? I always talk about when you enter the same pair position, let's say dollar or yen, it's best to just enter one or two. But if you can already move any one of them to break even or to profit, like in this case, I'm going to do that now. So dollar yen, I enter 4-5, right? So I'll move it to break even. Pretty simple. So then that's way, right? If I move it to break even, then I'm comfortably enter another yen position as long as that fits my plan. And if I can move, let's say, Swiss yen to break even after, then that's what I talk about: scale in entries and adding more positions. So that's pretty good for us to do that, because when the move is happening, let's say when we catch this potential bearish run, and if the bearish pushed out and if they can form a continuation, I'll certainly scale in the position here as long as my original position is at break even or in profit, like 1-to-1, then I'm happy to enter more of the same pair, right? So it's just risk management. Of course, everyone trades differently, right? So there's people who just enter the same position multiple times. If that fits their plan, sure, right? But I always talk about I'm rather I rather care about my risk overall. I'd rather protect my capital, protect my account. So I'd rather just enter one or two maximum, and then move it to break even, move it to profit, and then enter more position if possible. Okay, so that's kind of how my plan is when it comes to entering same pair, same position, etc. So, hi there from UK. Nice. Hey Victoria, I do feel better. Thank you very much for asking. Do you split percentage risk of the first two positions? I don't. I usually go with 1% per. I always trade 1%. 1% of my trading capital. So this is probably a subject for another day, but um, I don't trade the entire account. I actually trade more because let's say you have $100,000 account. Naturally, you wouldn't put all of them in one account. This is, again, like I said, a subject for another day. But if you have $100,000 real money, you probably won't put all of them in the same account. You can probably split it, meaning that you can put 50% in the trading account, and you can put 50% just somewhere else, right? You can put it in your saving account. You can put it something that's not in the same broker, but you can trade it as the same amount in your broker. I hope that makes sense. It's like, let's say you have $100,000 trading. You can put 50,000 in a trading account, and you can put 50,000 in a saving account, but you would trade that $50,000 as if you have $100,000. This is a great way to mitigate your risk. This is what I call capital partitioning. Okay, you do this so that you just don't have to put all your money into one basket. but you would trade it as if you have 100,000 in that broker, because with proper, you have a lot of leverage in your hand. Even for me, I just use 50-to-1 leverage. I don't need to have 100,000 in my account. I could just leave the rest, or leave the rest amount to somewhere else. And because I don't overtrade, I don't take multiple positions, I don't revenge trade, I don't over leverage trade anything. So I can certainly do this without putting all the amount in the same broker. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. It's a little bit more in depth, or more advanced, but I don't usually talk about it because not many people do that. But I think it's a good way to do it when you have a larger capital. It's just a better way to mitigate your account. Okay, so is the Wanda broker good? I think it's fine. I've been using it for years. I've been using it for probably like 7 years or 8 years. But it's best to do your own research. I'm not here to introduce broker or promote brokers, or have referrals on that. So I think it's best for you to do a little bit more research on that. Dollar yen, if you're trading 4 hour but enter with lower time frame, do you come with four? Yeah, I briefly went over. I just set the stop loss above the high after I see a lower time frame correction. I did enter at a lower time frame correction, but my stop losses and something like this. Usually you can put the stop loss like this if you feel that fits your plan. But I personally put it a little bit higher. I want to make sure that if this does push up, maybe from a top and before it drops, I want to make sure my trade is protected. So I just put a stop loss above the high of this correction. This correction is actually the key here, because all this move coming up, there is really no bearish price action until this kind of a small kind of ascending channel followed by this push down. So all this is clear price action to me, to look for a sell, right? And then put a stop loss above the high. That's kind of how I do it. And then look for the trade down, right? So that's how I would plan it, but it's not the only way. Remember, trading, don't get too tied into just one way of trading, right? You can put the stop loss like this if it fits your plan to enter after a correction like this, if you understand the risks involved. But obviously, if you have a tighter stop loss, then your reward is bigger, right? So like I said, it's all up to your perspective when it comes to this. So let's get started now, guys. Sorry, I kind of got sidetracked with all that, but yeah. So Bitcoin, Ethereum, certainly I will go over after the Forex pairs. Okay, I'm gonna start with Forex pair, but I will jump into other markets. Okay, but I will talk about all the markets. I will talk about all the major ones if I can. So pound yen, I will also talk about that as well. Let's start with dollar index now. So dollar index, I think yesterday, on Monday when I was supposed to do the outlook, I didn't do it. And Tuesday morning, I post kind of what I was looking at for the dollars. Essentially, I'm just kind of looking to see what will happen here, right? Ideally, what I would like to see is obviously strength in dollar if it can push up higher. But we don't know if this is going to push up higher or not. Right now, it's kind of looking like it's forming a little bit consolidation here. Looks like this is more kind of a ascending structure like this. It doesn't necessarily mean that this has to reverse. It's just that it's in a corrective structure right now. We want to see how this part will develop. I do want to see price to break above this high here, and then continuation. That would be nice to see. That's something I would want to get involved in if it can develop into something like this. But as for now, whatever it's doing right now, I'm happy to be a little bit more patient here, to wait for a little bit more development from price, because it's not quite clear what's going to happen here, right? There's certainly a possibility this is going to correct a little bit longer like this. The longer, the deeper it goes like this, the more that it can drop down, right? But as for now, it's still just two swing highs and two swing lows. So we still could expect this can push up and go higher, which is ideally what I prefer to see. Okay. So that's dollar index. That's dollar in general, really. I really don't have much, as you can see, except dollar yen. There's really not much dollar on watch because I think there's all these dollars are a little bit more consolidated. But speaking of dollar, let's say Kiwi dollar. Looks like we're looks like we're just consolidating here after this strong impulsive move to the downside. And I mentioned, remember exactly when I see this kind of steep ascending channel, very, very steep, I knew right away this isn't going to be isn't enough to break down right away. We're likely to see a bigger consolidation in my dollar video. And right now we're just basically just kind of consolidating here, right? So I would just prefer to see if this is actually going to move up all the way high here. If it does, great, right? Because now we're just going to get a few swing highs and a few swing lows, and we can potentially finish this correction here and then looking for the downside afterwards, right? That's kind of how I can reasonably expect this overall price action to do. And if we zoom out here, I like how this kind of consolidation is pretty similar like what we have seen before in terms of size and length. And we know that after this type of correction, we did see a very strong impulsive breakdown. So if this can move out correctively up here, fitting here, and then if we do get bearish kind of price action here, I think looking for a sell down is reasonable, and I think it's valid to look for a sell like this. Other than that, there is not much dollar on watch for me. Like I talk about euro dollar already is forming more of a corrective structure rather than an impulsive phase, right? The impulsive phase was beginning here, right? We remember when a lot of us was able to get in on a euro dollar trade, we did push down here. And right now, because it's forming more corrective now, right? You see, after the impulsive phase, there is a small correction, but after this correction push down, there is really no more impulsive phase. This is more looking like it's going to be start corrective now, right? This can easily start corrective like this. And the more and more, like I said, the more and more corrective it goes, the stronger, the higher probability this can start reversing back up, which is something that it's getting close to this low now, right? We talk about this previous low. It's very important that if the price breaks this previous low and then continuation after, then certainly we can expect dollar to continue get strength. But if it doesn't break the low, or if it start getting corrective now in this area, then we'll start seeing more of a descending structure here, and that's the sign from the price that maybe the bearish momentum is exhausted, and we're hitting this low here. We might be able to bounce off from here and then become a bullish trend afterwards. Because if we look at the higher time frame now, price is approaching to this bottom here, right? And if you really draw something in structure here, we could potentially see this larger move from the high time frame as an impulsive move, and this all could just be a corrective structure, right? This is a corrective structure here, and then we hit the bottom here. Potentially, it's going to reverse up from afterwards. So that's what I mean by it's very crucial to be patient here. If we're going to be looking for any buy or sell, I think this low here and how the price gets to the low is super important. There is really no need to rush when the price is in this area. It really hasn't reached the low, right? So I think both scenario actually is very valid, right? When I see both scenario possible, I think it's just best to wait, right? There's really no need to rush to the bottom, and there's no need to trying to jump in to look for the sell or buy. I don't think it's necessary. I think it's just best to see how both scenario play out. And that's why I draw this both scenario here, right? I think I just made this video. I mean, I made this post yesterday, if I can recall. So just wait for both scenario, right? It's very simple. Either a breakdown for the price and continuation afterwards, or if we start getting corrective structure, then potentially we're going to get a bullish reversal. Okay, so that's kind of my view or how I see on euro dollar or dollar in general, really. Target price on Swiss yen. Certainly there's few possibility. I think my first initial target, just the bottom of the overall higher time frame structure, right? Because we see this as an impulsive phase, corrective phase, looking for the next impulsive phase to the low here or the low of this channel here. This is the first target. think it's about 4.3 to 1 or so. But obviously, my main target is wait for price to break out and wait for continuation. I'll look for scaling because this potential move can happen, but not in one drop, right? Price doesn't drop like this in one go. So we're gonna push down, correct, push down, correct, push down, correct. Something like this to will to push the price down. So that's gonna be a more of a long-term approach in my opinion. Nice to see you back up. All index could do an M style pattern, double top. Yeah, certainly possible, right? Something like this, if that's what you're looking at. I certainly think that's possible. This is the same as what I think about euro dollar. I just didn't talk about here on dollar index. Um, I preferably want to see dollar get strength, but if it doesn't break this high here, then bearish price action here. It's the same idea as euro dollar, right? It's just inverse related, right? So certainly that's a possibility to watch out for this top here. If it doesn't break, or if it can break the double top here, but it doesn't need to continue, right? It can just potentially reverse down from here. So be careful in this area. For euro dollar double top, I'm not sure if you're thinking about here. Yeah, that's certainly possible. But right now we're still at the low of the price here, right? So we want to see how the low of the area will develop first. Certainly higher time frame double top or double top here is possible, right? It's what previously my analysis was for this sell, but right now price is at this area, so we want to focus on this area a little bit more. Let's go with pound dollar now. So pound dollar, I personally still like what I see on pound dollar. I still believe there could be some sell opportunities. Now, if we talk about pound dollar from the top here, after price developed this push down from the price, right? We have this consolidation, we push down, and it looks like we're developing a little bit further like this, right? It looks like there is some structure now here, which is great. We haven't break this low, which is the low that I keep looking at, that if we can just kind of correct here a little bit longer, I still think there can be a sell move down to this low. And my bias here is still the dollar strength, right? Because I still see this ascending channel is broken, right? We have this impulsive move correction, we impulse down, we break all of this ascending channel and the higher time frame ascending channel. There looks like there is a little bit more consolidation happening here, and there's a few swing highs and few swing low. I put this out because I know that there's a reasonable chance price can still correct here, right? So if it does continue to correct here, I'll let it correct itself, but we're still looking for some sort of bearish confirmation, either a bearish breakout or some sort of bearish reversal from the top. I still like what I see here as for now. As the same price action here, I still like what I'm seeing here. It can still continue to correct here. So let it correct if it's going to, right? I'm not looking for buy and sell while it's in this kind of consolidation. Um, the odd chance if this is going to break out like this and break above this high, then it kind of invalidates kind of what I'm saying here. Then I'll move on, right? But if as long as the price is still corrective in here, I still want to wait for a chance for the sell down, either sell to break this previous low. If it can break that, continuation down to pretty much the next low. That's kind of how I see price can play out. But as for now, there is really no entries and no confirmation yet, so best to be patient here in this area. Dollar Swiss, I will talk about that. So what do I think about Euro Pound? I'm gonna talk about Euro Pound after, sure. But I'm just going in order, okay? So if you're looking at my list, I'm just going in order on the right here. Pound Swiss, Pound Aussie. I'm just gonna go in order, guys. Okay, so I have a few more here to go over, but I will go over in order here. Okay. So someone asked about dollar Swiss. I think dollar Swiss is kind of forming a corrective structure here. You can see this as two-way. You can see this as a potential structure like this because this has an impulse up correction and looking for upside after. But it's also looking like we're forming a head and shoulder pattern, which is obviously a reversal, right? So when I see contradicting structure like this or contradicting price action, I tend to stay away from it because it's just forming a, you can think of it as a bullish correction, bullish impulse and bullish correction go further, or you can see this as a head and shoulder, right? So I don't like when I see kind of contradicting bias in this sense. I'm more leaning towards a potential bullish bias, but I don't like what we're seeing here, right? We can't be married to our analysis, as I always say. So like, even though we have a bias of a long, but we can't ignore that the price is showing you a bearish kind of price action for the downside. So I best to stay out of something like this. Now that's all the dollar pair, guys. Let's move on now. Let's move on a little bit behind time. So let's move on to some yen pairs now. I'll quickly go through some of the yen pairs. Now. If we can see, Aussie yen finally is able to kind of break below this low, but it kind of had a reversal impulse, right? So this is something that we need to consider now. Originally, when we talk about this sell here, this sell has already happened, right? We talk about this sell pushing down to the low, and then once we broke this low here, when it kind of bounced up here, and I mentioned if we can get another reversal down, that would be great. So we did take this really sharp bearish move down, but it was quickly reversed up by a bullish reversal, like a bullish impulse. And if we look closely here, again, originally I thought this is going to be a bullish continuation, but most of these yen pairs are falling into this kind of head and shoulder. I'm going to go through every single yen pairs really quickly, but it looks like we're all forming this kind of head and shoulder pattern, right? So again, it's just best to choose if you're looking for strength in yen, if your bias is for the sell or for bearish for all the yen pairs, it's best to choose, whatever these yen pairs are shaping up to be the best. So if you look at all these yen pairs, they're basically doing the same thing. They're basically forming all this head and shoulder after the original bearish move down. This is from last week, right? And then we had a recovery on Friday, and then we started forming into this bearish kind of price action. I chose Swiss yen. I'll explain why, but you can tell that most of these yen pairs originally had the bearish move down, had a very deep correction, and then continuation, and then reverse up, and it looks like it's going to continue lower, right? Same thing with Aussie yen, right? Initial push down, correct, next push down, and then looks like the head and shoulder here. Euro yen, same idea, right? Euro yen, same idea. We had the initial push down for the price, reaching this low. We had this sharp pullback, form a correction here, push down again, and looks like we're going to continue lower. Pound yen, same idea here, right? We actually able to push down to the bottom of the structure here, and we hit this low, but you can see that we had this reversal impulse, but it's the same head and shoulder we're seeing across the board here on all the yen pairs. So same head and shoulder, right? And then last one, Kiwi yen here. Kiwi yen, we just haven't break this previous low yet, but it's the same idea. Impulse down, correction, impulse down again. There is some Kiwi news, if I recall. So the head and shoulder wasn't that good, right? This is the head and shoulder most of the yen pairs have, but it had some Kiwi news, if I recall. But same idea here, right? Because all the yen pairs are looking relatively the same. So if the yen pairs are going to continue, I think this is going to continue as well. So my reasoning to choose Swiss yen because it's still relatively at the overall price action is still within this overall structure here. I like how there's actually more clear price action in this area rather than something like Aussie yen where it kind of break the previous low, but it's not like continuation right away. It kind of had this pullback, even though the head and shoulder can likely to produce the bearish momentum to continue, but it's about filtering the trades, right? We're not going to take every single yen pair, right? We're not going to take every single yen pair because they're all looking like it's going to continue the bearish trend. This is what I mentioned in the beginning, right? Choose one or two best yen pairs that you want to focus on, and then focus on the best price action. I think Swiss yen overall has the better price action from a higher time frame perspective overall. Um, and that the higher time frame to me weights a little bit heavier in that sense. Okay, so that's kind of how I see on Swiss yen and all the other yen pairs really. So pound yen, someone did ask. Like I said, I do see a potential head and shoulder here, but I don't think this is. I don't want to say this is a potential enough to short. But if that fits your plan to short something like this, if you see this as a potential right shoulder, if you want to enter something like this, I think that's fine. That's kind of how I enter on Swiss yen. I thought Swiss yen just overall had a little bit better price action overall from a higher time frame to lower time frame basis. Okay, so that is the overall yens. Okay, the overall yens. Hope that makes sense. Any question, let me know. But I'm gonna continue after. I think it's what makes you a pro trader, Jojo. You don't force your analysis just for the sake of ego, being right on predicting, learn a lot. That's a very good point. That's actually a very, very good point. I thought I explained a little bit more. I don't force any trades just because I have an analysis. Let's say I have a bias of a sell. I don't force the trade at all. If the trade doesn't play out, if the analysis, if the forecasting doesn't play out, if I move oppositely, then I move on, right? I move on to other analysis. I think that's a very key word you just mentioned, ego. I dealt with hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of traders. And trading is just one of those things for newcomers. They tend to have an ego, right? They tend to be want to be right all the time. Even people in my Telegram channel, I don't want to point names, but it's sometimes you'll see people who are not agreeing with you, and that's fine, right? I always respect different opinion. I don't try to argue. But the moment if you don't agree with that person gets frustrated. That person right away needs to jump out and start posting screenshots, start posting examples of what he means. I think that's really a sign of ego, right? That person is trying to convince everyone that he's right. In my opinion, there is really no right or wrong when it comes to trading because it's just following your strategy, following your plan. Some person might be looking for sell, some person might be looking for buy, right? But as long as as long as each other is following their own perspective plan, I don't think there's anything wrong. What I think is wrong practices, I don't want to say wrong, but wrong practices is trying to convince everyone, trying to make everyone think that person that I'm right and you're wrong kind of mindset. I think that's not the right mindset, right? Trying to put ego into perspective, right? Because we're all human beings, right? We have ego, and you want to be you don't no one wants to be told they're wrong, right? I think that's really why we're human beings. We don't want to be told we're wrong. So the moment someone doesn't agree with you, um, the ego comes out, right? The ego comes out right away and just like, what do you mean you're not agreeing with me? I'm gonna show you all these examples to make you believe what I'm saying. I think that's just too much ego, right? And trading, in order for to be successful in trading, we need to drop the ego, right? There's really no need to try to convince everyone you're right? There's really no need. Move on, right? At the end of the day, your trading account or you're reliable for your trading account, right? You need to own it, right? You need to trade your own trading account. Doesn't matter what other people are saying, right? So, okay, so let's move on to Euro Aussie now. I think Euro Aussie, someone asked me to talk about Euro Aussie. So I think Euro Aussie can have some sort of bearish continuation now. Originally, if you guys recall, all the way from here, I had the more of a bullish bias, right? But as this price action continued to go on, it's just getting longer and deeper and lengthier. And this is more looking like a parallel channel now. And if we look, I'll zoom out here. We already have a very sharp impulse down, right? This is from COVID, right? From COVID up and then COVID reversal, followed by an impulse correction, and then another impulse happened. So naturally, after a sharp impulse like this, price needs to correct, right? So this is the correction that we're basically seeing now. So the price is correcting here, continue to correct, and then potentially we can see some kind of bearish kind of price action that can happen, right? We hit this double top here, right? This is a double top here, and price pretty much reject the double top, and it's falling down now. If we look closely into the lower time frame, it looks like there is some correction here already, but I think this move going down is a little bit more corrective, right? It's almost looks like we can fall into a channel like this, which is not ideally what I want to see. I ideally want to see kind of impulse down, correct, and then impulse down, correct, impulse down, correct. Whereas this falls into more just a corrective kind of phase. Okay, so if at the beginning it does look pretty clean from somewhere like this, I think this is pretty clean if you're looking for a sell like this. But after, when I start seeing a little bit more corrective kind of price like this is more moving kind of slanted lower like this. So this can easily, reverse, right? So I don't think that's the same sell setup anymore, or the same sell bias. If this can push up to the top here, potentially forming a top, maybe a smaller M sell pattern, I think selling from here would be ideal to the downside. I think that's fine. But because this move has already kind of pushed down, but very, very correctively, I don't like kind of what I'm seeing here, because I don't think the sell is as potent or as strong as when we're in the beginning of somewhere here. All right, so look to see if this is going to reverse up. If it does, I think selling from the top would be more ideal to the low side. But if this is start moving sideways like this, start being a little bit more corrective now, then I think this sell here is still valid, because this shows you that even though this move down is quite corrective, it started forming another correction for the downside. I think this is fine to look for an entry like this to look for the sell down. And overall higher time frame bias is there, right? The higher time frame bias is very, very clear for me to look for the sell. Okay, so that's Euro Aussie here. Nikkei 225. Yeah, I'm gonna talk about all the indices after, so just bear with me. I'm gonna go over all the forex pair first. Yen pairs are going down rallies on the dollar strength. I would say I don't really. Let me make sure I'm saying this right. I I don't look at the correlation too much. I'm not saying it doesn't work. I'm saying that I personally don't look at correlation as much, but I do a lot of times when I see the dollar get strength, the yen gets strength as well. Okay, let me repeat that. When I see the dollar get strength, like when I see the dollar get strength, I see the yen get strength as well. Okay, so but it's not all the time, right? I'm talking like let's say Aussie dollar, Aussie yen. They don't necessarily have to move the same direction. Just like Euro dollar and Euro yen doesn't necessarily need to move the same direction. They do when they're in some sort of impulsive phase, right? When you see this Euro yen phase like this, it is similar like Euro dollar, yes, but it doesn't mean that they will move together, right? And then probably the best prime example is like dollar yen. This is why I talk about dollar yen a lot, because I don't want to say dollar yen is more towards the dollar or towards the yen, right? It's just individual price action, right? Because when you look at dollar yen, when the dollar gets strength and the yen gets strength, is it going to follow the dollar or is it going to follow the yen, right? Like it's kind of contradictory in the middle. So I think it's just better to kind of look at it individually. Like you can more look at more, let's say if you're looking at yen pairs, you can compare the yen pairs. I think that's fine, right? But it's not necessarily means that they're all going to move together, right? It's necessary. It's not necessarily, right? That's kind of what I'm saying. So specifically when it comes to dollar or yen now, they do move when it's really in that impulsive phase, right? Because the impulsive phase will happen, but they don't necessarily have to move exactly. Otherwise, we kind of get identical price action, which they're not, right? So dollar, Singapore dollar, I don't see much here. I do see price break this high here, but this move is quite corrective. it almost looks like this is in a more of a ascending structure. So breaking the high is good, but if breaking the high in a corrected price action, then I don't think it's that valid. That almost looks like this can push down and then look for the sell after. But my overall bias on dollar Singapore, dollar in general is bullish, right? Like I like how there's a previous low. You can see this as a double bottom or triple bottom. And price pushes up, which is all good, and we broke this high, but it's in a corrected price action, which is not something I like to see, right? This is almost looking like an ascending structure breaking the high here, and almost look like this can push down and then continue lower. So I don't see the strength in dollar, in at least for dollar Singapore dollar. I think there's better pairs to trade with this kind of sense. Even though I do favor the dollar strength, but I just think there's way better other opportunities to focus on in this case. Okay. Gold and platinum, I will go over them after the Forex pairs. So Euro Swiss, I thought I'd do a quick update on Euro Swiss. Some people are asking me about Euro Swiss. I think this is fine to wait for a development here on the lower time frame. This is clearly an impulsive phase on the market, and this is clearly a corrective structure, right? I think this is no question on that. So it's just whether or not if this is going to develop something here to look for the upside move. And I mentioned that I want to see a consolidation here. So if it continue to correct here, and it breaks out followed by a lower time frame correction, I think this is a valid buy if that happens. Look for a buy to the top. And we have seen price push up several times where it failed to, right? So just understand when it reaches this high, you have to monitor the price to see if it's going to break out and then continue, or if it's just going to reverse down one more time exactly like this, right? So just be careful if you're looking for a buy here. But I do think this overall structure, the longer, the deeper of it goes, the stronger, the higher probability of this impulse, followed by this correction, and then looking for the next impulse to the high. The longer, the deeper this goes, the higher the probability for me to look for this upside or to see this upside potential. But first thing first, I think this area needs to consolidate or at least correct, because you can already see this is an impulsive move in the lower time frame within this kind of parallel channel structure. So if the price is going to reverse, we need to see a reversal correction here for the upside, right? So if we get reversal correction here, so impulse down, reversal correction, reverse back up, and then if we can break out followed by continuation, then basically making the higher time frame impulse correction impulse, right? Very standard, very straightforward. We see these over and over again in the market, right? So the more you do backtesting, the more you see something like this, I think it's the easier for you to identify something like this, and you be comfortable understanding why the price will reverse here and why the price will continue in this case. So Euro Pound, I'm looking at Euro Pound now. What do I think of Euro Pound? It's a lower time frame console. Few days now, is it going up and down? I traded on a few days ago. Who I buy to expect to go up. I don't see much on Euro Pound. I'll be honest. I don't see much on Euro Pound. I think this is just still in a corrective price action, right? I don't think there's much here, if you ask me, because this overall looks like it's a corrective structure. Right, there's a few swing highs and a few swing low now. Now, I reasonably do think this can push up, but probably just to this high here, because if we zoom out here on the higher time frame, I still see this as a very, very sharp impulse down, and this can just be overall a corrective structure to push the price lower. It's just that we need to see a little bit bigger correction now, right? Normally, we're used to seeing something like this on the flip side, like on a inverse scale, right? So impulse up and then correction to go higher, right? In this case, it's just inverse related. That's all, right? So I personally, at least for me or my plan, I won't be looking for a buy here. I think the higher time frame here is still quite bearish. It's not that the buy won't happen. I probably would like to see this move pushing up. But it's just I personally won't looking for a buy like this. I think it's a little bit too tight. I don't know if I can fit 3-to-1 here or not, and to the high here. And because the higher time frame bearish move is still pretty valid, right? You can see this is the impulse from COVID. We had a reversal impulse. We followed by a corrective structure. And we impulse out again below this low. And this to me is just an overall kind of a higher time, not higher time frame, a corrective structure to correct this move. And once this push up, likely if it doesn't break this high here, we can see another move down to the low here. So that's kind of what I see on Euro Pound here. So if you're in the buy, follow your plan, of course, right? I'm just giving you a more perspective on what I think the price could do or may do. So I'm not sure your target or whatever, your stop loss or whatever, but a short move to the upside is looking like it can happen, but I don't know if it's going to continue upwards like that or if it's going to form into this corrective structure and move down afterwards. All right. So moving on to Pound Aussie. Someone asked about Pound Aussie. I've been getting a lot of messages on Pound Aussie, and I think most of you guys are looking for the sell, right? I think sell is fine. I do think sell is fine. I do think this is a potential double top here. I like how there is a kind of more parallel channel moving up like this. And if we look at the lower time frame here, there is a little bit more structure here. And I think someone showed me that there's a bigger structure here, and I do agree with that. So looking for the sell like this, if it breaks out, I think that's fine as well. Looking for a correction, depending on how you see this. Overall price, I think it's all valid here. It's just that this has been moving up like this for a little bit longer, right? This has been a little bit more corrective structure. And because I also see a lot of Aussie pairs getting weak, right? Sometimes when we look at the Aussie dollar or Aussie yen or other Aussie pair, they're not getting bullish, let's put it that way. Individual wise, it's looking pretty good, right? Individual wise, it's looking great. I think it's all about this area that if it can finish correcting here, I think that's fine, but it's not. I think this is a little bit more consolidated. We'll have to see how this consolidation finish up. Preferably finish up the correction. If you're looking for a sell up here or whatever, I think that's fine. If it follow a breakout after and a little confident correction, I think that's going to be something that I'm looking for if it happens here. Okay, so that's Pound Aussie. I do like the overall Pound Aussie compared to Pound Kiwi. I think Pound Aussie ultimately has a little bit better price action than Pound Kiwi. So if I was going to choose one of these to enter, I think Pound Aussie is ideal. Just waiting to see what will happen in this last bit of the area. All right, so Pound Swiss. I don't see much on Pound Swiss, and I didn't see the price breaking below this and continue. This is probably the key here. I mentioned about Pound Swiss. I took a Pound Swiss trade here. I think it was last week or previous week. I can't remember. But I did take a loss here. I was looking for this correction to push down, which it did, but it pulled back a little bit further, so I got stopped out here before it reversed down. After it reversed down, and at the time when it broke out of this channel here, I was looking for it to see if it's going to continue here to go lower. It pretty much did not, right? It kind of just break out, false breakout, catching a lot of traders to sell here, and then just reverse back up. So this is how I would talk about adjusting structure, right? This is originally what I had. We break down, and I was looking for it to see if it's going to continue lower. It did not. So all that is telling you that the structure or the correction isn't complete, right? Isn't complete because now we're going to get a little bit more development. It didn't break this. It didn't continue after this low. It kind of climbed up, followed by a little bit correction. So I do reasonably think this is going to continue higher to this high now, and then potentially looking for a bearish reversal down afterwards. Right? So understanding how the structures can evolve, right? We talk about structure evolving. I've made several videos, if I can recall, on structure evolving. All that is telling you that what we once see from the price what we once see as a corrective price action can continue to develop and evolve and continue correcting. Right? The correction doesn't need to end whenever we think it's going to end. It can continue going on indefinitely. And there is really nothing wrong from a price action point of view because we never know when or how long a corrective structure can go. We have a good understanding of how they could end, but it doesn't need to end wherever we think it's going to end. So make sure you remember that, right? So, and especially when you see this impulse down, it didn't continue, it didn't form continuation, it had a reversal impulse out followed by a mini correction. This is clearly a sign from the market. It's almost like a signal from the market telling you that the bearish move down from this is not the one that's going to push down. We're going to likely to see another move up to the top. And if it does reverse on the top here, then this may be the move down coming down. And if this move down doesn't break the low here, then another move up, right? This is all it's telling you that this can go on indefinitely. And all we need to understand that every time when it reverts back to the top, and if it doesn't break up to the top, and then when we start seeing bearish price action, then it's a huge sign for the market that we're going to see another move down for the price. That is all. Okay, so hope that makes sense. Hello, hello. All right, so that is pound Swiss, and the last one I want to go over, I think it's Kiwi Swiss. I think Kiwi Swiss could have something here as well. Originally, I was looking at if the price is going to break out of this correction here and continuation to the upside. I did also mention one more move to the downside to the bottom here before a reverse is very, very possible, which is kind of what we're seeing, right? You can see that move push to the downside, and then there's a reversal correction and we push up again. So basically, we push down here, and possibly, we don't know if that's going to happen, but the overall price is looking pretty clean, at least from my point of view. This looks like an impulsive move to the upside, and this correction has been happening since end of February. So that's been going on for 4 or 5 months now like this. And finally, we might be seeing this breakout. If it does break out followed by correction, I definitely think this move can reach this high here. Okay, it's very similar like Aussie Swiss, but I think Kiwi Swiss looks a little bit cleaner because you can see Aussie Swiss here, the correction here hasn't continued with another impulse yet, whereas Kiwi Swiss did have this correction and then it did impulse out. So another correction here, I think it's valid, and then looking for price to break out of this channel here or this structure here, and looking for continuation afterwards. I think that's pretty valid as well. So any question here, guys? Any question on any of the Forex pair before I move on? I'll be spending almost an hour, so I'm a little bit behind schedule, but I will talk about the commodities, the indices, and crypto, guys. So bear with me here. All right, so no question here. Let's continue to commodities now. If no question here, let's continue to commodities now. There are a few questions about gold, platinum, things like that. Yeah, let's take a look. If price reach our planned stop loss without taking me in the trade, is a sign for me to cancel the stop order. What are you talking about, like dollar CAD or something? I think I post dollar CAD and yeah, I understand. I think it's up to you really. I still reasonably see this is a potential correction that we're seeing. It's just originally I had a draw like this, right? And then I had a potential correction like this. But I don't think, I think you mentioned you didn't get triggered in, like you put your entry is something like this, right? I think it's totally fine to adjust it if you still see this as a bullish overall price action, right? If you still see this as a bullish overall price action, all you're doing now is just adjusting your entry and adjusting your stop. If you still see this as a bullish price action, if you still want to enter something like this, I think it's all you need to do is adjust it, right? You don't need to necessarily cancel it. As long as you still have a reasonable bias for a bullish continuation, right? Then still look for the bullish continuation. I think that's fine, right? I still see this as a potential here, so I'm still kind of monitoring here and see what will happen. Um, I like how we're getting a little bit more corrective structure here, a little bit bigger. The bigger, the better, right? So if you think about this, if we just extend this, this is basically a breakout now, right? So we have this higher time frame descending channel. We had this reversal correction. We had the first impulse correction. We finally break out of this descending channel. So that's just all good sign from the market. So if this is a correction that we're looking to enter, you can still set the same entry order and same stop loss if that fits your plan. All right, so the stop become way too big. Well, that is sometimes how trading is, right? So, but it's up to you to understand if you're going to make your stop loss smaller. Um, it's a double-edged sword, as I always call it, right? Making your stop loss smaller, obviously, make your reward bigger, right? I think that's no-brainer here. But making your stop loss bigger, smaller, it's also choking your price. Maybe the price may take you out and then still resume the original direction after. So there is no best way scenario here, right? We cannot expect a tight stop loss and risk-free trade, right? So this doesn't make sense, right? The bigger the stop loss, the safer the trade goes. The smaller the stop loss, the more risky it goes, but the more reward it gets, right? So double-edged sword, as I call it. So let's continue now. I was looking at platinum here. I talked about platinum for potential here if this correction continues to evolve, right? Again, we're just going to see how this correction goes. It looks like we are just, I still like the overall price. If you look here, we have this impulsive move correction as well. So if this correction continues to develop, I will be looking for some sort of downside potential. I like how we are potentially seeing this impulsive move is getting another correction now. We don't know how big or how long this can go, right? This goes on quite a bit long before the next impulsive phase. So we don't know if this is going to go on lengthier like this, but the bearish price action I talk about on the higher time frame is pretty valid, right? We talk about the overall price, but we see this as an impulsive move down. This is a higher time frame kind of structure. We have this kind of double top in the area. Price broke the double top, but then pretty much reverse back down, correction and reverse again. So this can be certainly an area to look for another bearish sell, or more of a long-term sell if it does develop here, and then looking for another sell down. Right, this is from COVID, right? And then after COVID, price recovered quite a bit. But if we zoom out on the higher time frame, we're still quite bearish from this overall move down. So just waiting to see what this higher time frame structure will do and see how this price will do in this area. Someone asked me about copper. I think copper, it's very same idea here, right? We have this impulsive move correction, another impulse down, looking like we're just falling into another correction and basically forming that head and shoulder I talked about weeks ago in my commodity outlook video. I've been talking about this potential higher time frame head and shoulder at the higher time frame double top, right? This is the all-time high that the price is pretty much failing to break higher. You can see this is the previous high. If we zoom out, there is really no previous high after, right? So this is basically telling you that price is failing to break this high, a clear kind of a top in the area, and the lower time frame is developing into some sort of head and shoulder pattern. You can see that there is a head and shoulder here. So if this right shoulder completes, it gives you a very strong bearish sell opportunity to the next low. Again, these are more, I would say, mid to long-term approach. It's not like how we trade maybe Forex pairs or things like that. I think these commodities usually takes longer to correct, right? This, like something like this takes pretty much 2 months to correct in this correction, and then impulse up, and then another reversal impulse down. So this correction can take a little bit longer as well before it resumes the downside. So gold and platinum. Yeah, so talk about platinum. We'll talk about gold now. I'm recently still looking for some sort of bearish development here, right? My bias here is still potentially looking for a sell, or actually want to see the price push down, because I talk about this higher time frame structure many times. I like how the move up here is not continuation to go higher. It's that we have a reversal impulse down, and this is rather corrective. We don't know if this is the only correction we're going to see, or we might just see a bigger correction, maybe something like this. We don't know that yet, right? So we're just kind of adjusting to what the market is telling us. But I reasonably think this move here is very, very similar, right? We have this impulse down from the price, continuation, and push down price lower. Same impulse down, potentially another correction here. Whether or not we're going to develop into something like this, we don't know. And then still looking for the downside afterwards. So not looking to enter anything here. I'm really not. I'm just looking to see what the price will do. If it does eventually lead into some sort of bearish price action, I could be interesting, but as of now, I really don't see much here. I think there is yet to develop here in this area. If this is just going to continue push up, I'm not interested either unless this breaks out and then continuation after. But that's not going to happen anytime soon anyways. So I want to see what's going to happen here. Potentially still waiting for a bearish development here. Because ideally, I want to see price to ideally, I want to see price to move down here, right, to this double bottom here, or to the low of this area, or even possible break the low. But this is a key area to look for a long-term buy. But price hasn't reached this low yet, so I'm still uh, yet to take any action, right? Just let the price do its thing. Let the market does its thing, because that's just what the market do. We don't need to rush this. We don't need to jump in. I just see too many trader. I think it's just an ego thing or a pride thing that they always want to predict where gold is going. I see this over and over again in different posting, different different platforms, channels, groups. People always want to try to predict where gold is going. You can make forecasts, but you don't need to jump in on the buy and sell to prove anything. There again, that's another ego thing, right? You don't need to prove to anyone that you're better or anything. If there's no development, then I'm just happy to wait. And when the price is right, when the price does form into something that I want to see, then I'm gonna look for the buy if that happens, right? Or I'm gonna look for the sell if this correction finished. But as for now, not much here for me. So silver, let's look at silver. I still like silver here, right? I talked about silver from last week. I did enter a silver sell here. I think I end up with a 0.5% profit. You can see price pretty much forming into a potential bigger correction while we're in this continuation structure. If we look closely here, we talk about the overall price action here on silver. I like that if we can get another move down from the price, I think this is pretty much a very good potential sell to the low here. And if it's at the bottom here, I want to see a bullish reversal for the upside, right? But right now we're just in this corrective structure, right? We're still in this corrective structure. We have a few bearish price action in our favor, and look like we have this impulse, we have this potential correction. I got out of the trade because I didn't see the impulsive move pushing down as sharp as I want to see. Okay, so the impulsive move I want to see is something like this, but it didn't happen. But we're still developing, right? This move pushed down. This looks like another kind of sandy channel that can certainly be the next push down for the price. But for me, I remember after I exit the trade, I update everyone. I mentioned I prefer to now to see if this is going to break out and then correct after. Then I'll look for a potential entry like this. But if that doesn't happen, I'm happy to wait to see what will happen in this overall structure. This can continue to develop here a little bit longer. We don't know that yet. But I reasonably do want to see if this is going to continue lower to the downside and then look for the possible reversal, just like gold here. Uh, I would say long-term platinum and copper, but not gold. I would say gold is. I would say gold. I would say short-term wise, I would like to see a move down, but long-term wise, this is a buy, right? If we look at the higher time frame, clearly, this is a sharp, impulsive move to the upside for a higher time frame, daily kind of time frame, and this could easily just be a corrective structure to correct this move here. The move started on December 2018. It's all 2.5 years of an impulsive phase. Naturally, price needs to correct while it's in the corrective structure. So short term, I would look for a sell. Long term, I'll look for a buy. Whereas the other two, platinum and copper, I think copper is pretty much a long term or mid to long term sell. Same with platinum here, in my opinion. Um, I have problem drawing too many trend lines, which result in too many often contradictory patterns. Do you have video on tips on how to draw trend lines? You should always start from the higher time frame first, right? I don't know how you draw your trend lines or whatever, but start with the higher time frame first, right? You should always start from higher time frame first. Drawing true main trend line is honestly a psychological thing. I hope you don't take it offensive, but the more line you draw is just you're trying to justify an entry, you're trying to justify a pattern so you can enter. So don't do that, right? Just draw it as simple as possible. Start from higher time frame, right? Start from higher time frame. So this is daily. Connect the highs and lows, right? You need to first identify the impulsive phase, which is here, and then connect the recent highs and lows, right? It's that simple. And then you should have, at least the way how I do it is this, right? I have two charts like this. So I have a higher time frame chart, which I only draw on higher time frame, and I have a lower time frame chart, which I only draw on lower time frame. You see, these two are not sync, right? You know how you can sync these? You can change these things here. It's only sync on the symbol, but it's not sync on the drawings. It's not sync on anything. So you probably have all your drawing on one chart. That's probably why, right? So I distinguish higher time frame and I distinguish lower time frame like this. So my drawing on the higher time frame is for higher time frame, and my drawing on the lower time frame is for lower time frame. So you can see in the lower time frame, I might have a little bit more drawings or a little bit more structures I point out. On the higher time frame, I try to make it as simple as possible because what you see on higher time frame is what you see on higher time frame. What you see on lower time frame is what you see on lower time frame. There is no need to do what I'm doing here, which is what a lot of people do. You see, they sync the drawing or they just use one chart. So now on my higher time frame, you're gonna have drawings like this, you're gonna have drawings like this, or you have drawings like this. I think it's way too much. You don't need to confuse yourself in that case, right? So just keep it very, very simple, right? Keep it very, very simple. Keep it separate if possible, so you don't have overlining structures and lines and things like that. So, I mean, you can do it however you want. You can do it like sideways. You can do it like this. It really doesn't really matter. But I personally do it like this, like two separate ones. So I like it like this. I think it's better to keep the higher time frame and lower time frame separate. You notice when I do all my streams, like ideas or videos, I will expand one of them. Right? Let's say I'm on daily silver. All I do is I click tab, right? Click tab on your keyboard and I jump to the lower time frame. That's how it works. So if you notice I'm jumping back and forth, that's exactly what I'm doing. This is a lower time frame chart, and I'll click tab and I go to the higher time frame. It's that simple. And I try to keep the higher time frame and lower time frame separate. So it's just easier to read them. So Earth, you just have to, like I said, um, do a little bit more backtesting. Do a little bit more backtesting, identifying the impulsive phase, identify after the impulsive phase correction happens, and connect the correction happens. That's all. So this doesn't come naturally. You just have to come in time, right? You just have to put in more time, backtesting, chart work, and things like that, right? There's no quick way around it, right? I didn't come to this conclusion right away for myself. I just continue to do backtesting, chart work, erase the line. There's a good way. I think you even mentioned that in the Telegram. Is just if you can, then just um, erase all the line if you want and redraw them if possible, right? Erase all the lines and then reconnect the lines, right? So you have a new perspective in the charts and then redo that over and over again, right? So moving on to oil, I'm a little bit behind schedule, but that's fine. Oil, I still want to look for a potential sell. I think it was a week ago that I took a loss here. I still like what I'm seeing here in terms of the sell. I still like how we still have this kind of higher time frame structure. I like how at the double top of the higher time frame is still very, very valid in my eye. And this move down, if this is going to form into some sort of corrective structure and push down lower, I think it's still reasonably to look for a potential sell like this afterwards. I still like the overall higher time frame, right? The higher time frame is still very key or still going to weigh heavier on my analysis anyways. Double top potentially here. And if you look, there is really no highs afterwards. This is the next high here, which is like at 100. I just don't see price to impulsively push that here without some sort of corrective or some sort of bullish momentum to push the price that high. I think what we're likely to get here is a rejection here on the higher time frame and a corrective move to the downside. I certainly don't think this is going to move down so much lower. I just think that there is a potential for the price to correct or something like this before potentially next upside, because this move is so fierce or so sharp. I just don't see this is going to continue like this, especially we're at a very key area now where price could reverse, which is what we're getting here. Um, this impulsive move down followed by potentially this correction can or may lead to another correction down. If it does happen, then yeah, potentially look for a sell. And if we can break out here and then further correction, certainly to the low here is reasonable as well. I will talk about Bitcoin after, my friend. I'm just finishing up commodity and have indices to go over, and I will jump into crypto to wrap it up. Okay, so bear with me here. So that's what I see in oil, guys, and that's pretty much all the commodities. So oil, silver, gold, platinum, and copper. Okay, so let's go into indices now. So someone asked about Nikkei 225. I remember that. So let's start with that. Now with Nikkei, I think this is pretty much looking like this. Okay. If we look at solely from the higher time frame, pretty much looks like this is an impulsive move correction. We impulse out now. And if we look at the lower time frame, this is basically forming another kind of continuation, right? We see all these smaller continuation correction, right? Impulse, correct, impulse, correct, impulse. So this is one big impulsive move, and looking like this is more into like a flag or channel kind of structure. So I want to see if this is actually going to break out now, right? This looks like another correction within. So everything here looks pretty bullish to me, at least from my point of view. Looking to see if this is going to break out and the continuation to the upside. I think that's pretty possible to happen. So I think the last confirmation here is just a breakout and the correction here would be ideal for the next buy. I personally don't really trade Nikkei 225 or anything like that. I focus more on the US indices, but I do think this is a valid kind of price or valid correction that it's currently in right now. We're looking at NASDAQ here now. So NASDAQ, you can see this is a very clear corrective ascending channel moving out. I think there's no question here. The question here is whether or not we're going to get that bearish breakout and continuation after. If it does not, then this is likely to just continue more and more. And the only way that this is going to change at least my bias or my point of view is this has to just impulsively break out followed by a correction like this and to push higher. And if this happens, that will pretty much mitigate everything I talk about here, right? It's pretty much what I'm saying is that my bias here, even till now, is still looking for a potential bearish move. If it happens, if it breaks out, if it corrects, then I would like to look for a sell. If none of that happens and price continue to correctly moving up, then I'm still bearish. Only if price breaks out and then followed by a bullish continuation, then that will change kind of everything I talked about here. Okay, so this is just a simple plan, right? Don't need to rush, don't need to, jump in on anything. I think this is another thing I often hear is like, like traders always want to, jump in on positions where there is nothing developing here yet, right? So why be so impatient, right? Why be so impatient? The market is not going anywhere, right? The market is not going to take off without you, and even if it takes off without you, um, there's markets movement every single day. There's so much opportunity every day. You don't need to rush this, right? You should understand that trading is all about consistency. It's not rushing a trade. You can miss the trade. I miss trades all the time. Professional traders miss trades all the time. You can't be available 24 hours a day. Even if you are available 24 hours a day, you're still going to miss trades. You're just not going to be um, looking at every single thousands or tens of thousands of market every single second to catch all of them. It just doesn't happen. So it's all in your inner self, it's all in your head that you're having all this mind negative emotion or negative psychology. You're putting that against yourself, really. So just take it easy, right? If it have a plan to enter, right? My plan is simple. Right? I'm waiting for a breakout, waiting for a correction to enter. If these conditions are not met, then I'm not going to enter. I'm just going to be on the sideline watching price to develop further. So again, this comes to that ego perspective, right? If you have ego, you always want to prove others are wrong and you want to show others that you enter a position and you're right or whatever. But you're just putting your account at risk, right? You're putting your account at risk because all that is doing is you're forcing a lot of positions, you're forcing a lot of entries where it's not fitting your plan, but because your ego get the best out of you and you want to trying to prove to others, and you enter positions prematurely and get stopped out for no reason, right? So drop your ego, right? Drop your ego and just understanding that trading is a marathon, right? It's about consistency. It's not about how much money you make this month or how many percentage you make a month, which is what trader often trying to show off, like, oh, I make 30-40% this month. Okay, well, what about the next 3 months? What about the next year? Right? What about the next 5 years? Are you sustainable trading that kind of return? Because you don't make 30-40% return by risking 1%. It just doesn't happen. Right? You're obviously over risking your account or over trading or over leverage to get to that result. And surely people do that, but is that result consistent enough for the years and years to come? Right? Are you going to be a trader for just 1 month, 3 months, a year? Or do you want to be a trader for the next 34 years as long as your life lets you? So it's all in your mind, guys. It's all a perspective thing, okay? S&P 500, I think S&P is still in this kind of corrective structure, still in this ascending channel, so to speak. It looks like it's just slowing down, not much development here. So again, same bias as NASDAQ. If the price does break down followed by correction, then I will be interested. If this is just going to continue to correct here, then let it correct, right? I'm not doing much here. If it breaks out followed by a correction to go higher, then my bearish bias, my bearish forecast is no longer valid. Then I will potentially look for a bullish bias. But until this happens, right? Until this happens, all my bias here is still looking for a potential sell. Okay. And last one is Dow Jones. I think Dow Jones, we talk about this as well. I think a few weeks ago, I've been talking about this high here. Is as long as price doesn't break the high, or at least it doesn't break the high and continue, my bearish bias here is still quite valid, and I'm still looking for a potential reversal for the price here, whether or not it's going to develop here. It can break up correctively like this, just to drop down and then continue lower. We don't know if that's going to happen. But we have seen something like this in the past as well. It pushes to upside for a move down, right? So this can certainly have a move down here. And then if it doesn't break this low and then start having reversal, then certainly this becomes a continuation for this move. But right now, to me, I still think there is potential one more move to the downside if we can get some sort of bearish price action. But same idea, just like Nasdaq and S&P. I'm only interested if some sort of bearish price action kicks in. I'm not just going to sell because of some high test candle or some support resistance or whatever it is. I'm only looking for bearish price action to develop to confirm my bearish bias to look for an entry after. All right. So that is all the indices, guys. Any question on the indices before I wrap it up with crypto? Take a little bit longer today, but I did manage to talk about all the markets. Okay, usually I would finish around this time, but I still have one more to go. So bear with me for crypto market, but that's kind of how I see on the indices here, guys. Aussie Cat. I didn't talk about Aussie Cat because I don't see much on Aussie Cat. I mean, I do see a potential here. I mean, my bias here would be for a potential long, but kind of looking at this is still corrective. It has been corrective for a little bit longer, but this is good because this is getting more of a neutral now, right? More neutral corrective, pretty much correcting all this move, right? You can see that from the top here, there's several sell opportunity I personally took, and I'm sure a lot of you guys took as well. We're getting to this low, and I mentioned about this low where price is failing to break, right? You can see this is a low price it's failing to break, and if this actually breaks to the upside followed by a correction, then certainly this can kick off a potential long opportunity. If we look at the higher time frame here, after this kind of a wedge here, we have this impulse down to the downside, and looking like we are correcting here, so potential up move is possible. So all of this now is just waiting to see what will happen here in this correction, preferably a breakout correction, and look for the long. But not yet ready, in my opinion. Still kind of just developing here. Not much here until we finish this correction. Okay. What's my trigger to short S&P? Kind of just went over that, right? I'm looking for some sort of bearish price action. So I haven't seen much bearish price action here yet, to be honest. But looks like we might be forming something here. It's too early to tell, but I really want to see a sharp move to the downside, right? Followed by correction. I think that's going to be at least confirming that this could be some sort of head and shoulder or some sort of channel you want to call, but some sort of bearish price action overall to push down, correction to go lower. Okay, so that's kind of how I see this one. Same as Nasdaq, right? This has to break out followed by correction. The breakout has to be sharp and fierce. But you can see this type of structure we see over and over again on indices. If we just zoom out here, look how many times price form these type of price action before it drops, right? You see how this move up so fierce, so aggressively. This is from COVID, remember? You see how, I can zoom in here a little bit. See how price continue to move out like this just to see a drop, right? This is how the indices move over and over again. Again, this just has to come from backtesting and to get familiar with this type of price, right? We move up, move up just to drop, right? This is just how the indices move, right? So the more you do backtest, the more you see similar kind of things happen, the more you understand that this can very likely to lead to the next drop, just like what we have seen over and over again in the type of indices. And these drops are not the one that's going to turn into a bearish move, right? We understand most of the indices are obviously moving up, right? This is clearly an upside move. Really, there is no bearish move yet. These moves are just temporarily, right, short term. And then you see how after COVID drop, everything recovers this quick, right? So the bearish move can happen, but it's just a corrective move or it's a pullback move, however people want to call it. But it's very probable or very likely to happen for the price to continue to move up. It's the same as when COVID happens, move up just to move down here and then continue up after, right? So after this much movement, price again needs to correct before the next up move. It's just how it is. All right, so let's move on now. Let's move on now to crypto now, guys. So let's go to crypto, and I'm gonna wrap it up after crypto. If you guys have any crypto you want me to go over, welcome to let me know or type it in. I'm gonna quickly go over the crypto. I'm gonna go over Bitcoin first, and then the rest after. So. So this is what I see on Bitcoin. I still see this as a corrective structure. I know some people are looking for buys or looking for sell. Really, either way, my point is still the same, right? I still see this as a corrective structure. As long as price is still correcting here, I personally really don't think there is necessary to buy or sell. That's kind of how I see it because this correction is not complete, right? This correction is not complete. Like this move right here that a lot of people are pointing out, thinking this is going to take off like this. I really don't think it's going to fly off like this. This can move up, surely, but as long as we're still at this high here, if the price doesn't break up and continue, the bearish momentum is still there, right? The bearish momentum is still there. This can move up like this, just like what I kind of point out here, move up and then just hit the top here and then still reverse down afterwards. So why buy when there is only this much room to the potential upside? Right? I'm not saying this couldn't just continue and start a new bullish trend. I'm saying that there is no confirmation here yet. So buying here, whether or not some people are trading with leverage or maybe just buying the coins itself as an investment, I don't think much here is enough room. I think there is potential to wait for the price to reach this high here and wait to see price if it's going to break out and continue. And looking for a buy here that I think is totally valid. But if it doesn't break out, if it kind of just reach at the top here and then drop down, then certainly the bearish momentum might take over and continue downwards. Okay, so overall, I just think you should be waiting for a little bit more development here. I think that's uh, more safer in that sense, whether or not you're trading with leverage or not. Just too many often I hear people lose too much money on crypto. It's because of a lot of new traders have no idea with trading and trading with leverage, right? Um, some crypto brokers will offer you trading with leverage, right? And they have no idea how leverage works, and they're holding a position. When the crypto market dropped, their position did not get executed, like their stop loss did not get executed or whatever, and they're just losing their whole account in one trade, and that's it's just sad to see that too many traders jump into trading without the proper knowledge or experience, and they lost money in trading. And usually, they all lead to the conclusion that trading is a scam or a broker is a scam or whatever the case that they justify themselves in, right? Because we're humans. We don't want to admit our mistakes and they want to just blame on somebody else. But if we just take proper knowledge, proper experience and information, then don't let that affect you that way, right? Don't learn from others, learn from free material online, learn from free resources. You're gonna learn so much more about information in that sense, and you won't be over risking your account. Okay. So let's move on to a few ones that I'm kind of looking at. I think AVE or AAVE. I think something could happen here. I like how after this sharp of the crypto market drop, we kind of recover with this kind of descending channel, and we have this double bottom here. Looks like price is pushing up, and there could be another correction here. This is much valid, but as long as you watch out for this high here, this is the same thing as Bitcoin and every other crypto I'm going to talk about. As long as you understand this move may or may not break this high, and if you feel okay to enter something like this, I reasonably think this can continue higher. Okay, starting with other ones now. Cardano looks like we're forming this kind of similar kind of channel, similar impulse followed by a channel like this. I prefer a little bit more development after this part of the price. Everything after is not as clean, so to speak. It's a lot of consolidation. It's a lot of movement here after that sharp move to the downside. Still waiting to see how it will develop. I always talk about I bought Cardano all the way bottom here, but not trading them. I'm just having the physical coins to hold for a long-term perspective, right? So there is difference between trading a crypto and investing in crypto, right? So make sure you understand both. Ethereum, looking like we're forming into this structure here. So potentially we could be finding a potential buy. If this moves down one more time, hitting the low here, and then we can have a reversal, then I do expect this can break out. Same idea like Bitcoin is that this high here needs to at least break above to show further upside potential, right? If it doesn't break this high, if it just hits the high and then reverse back down, then expect all this to be a bearish correction for this move to go lower. So while I think there is a potential buy opportunity, I'm also very keen on seeing how this move can go. If it does break above and break above this high, then yeah, I like to see the continuation. But if it doesn't happen, if it doesn't break the high, then just watch out for the overall bearish move, right? Because this is still an impulsive move. Uh, Naturally, price will follow a continuation after an impulsive move. Only the odd chance is something like this when we see an impulsive move pushing up. It's not followed by continuation. It's not instead followed by a reversal and then push down afterwards. So be careful on that. I think Litecoin is the same idea as Ethereum. I think this is getting into a more structure now, which is good, right? We could either see this as a potential correction to break higher, or even one more move down to the low. I think that's fine as well. Hitting the low here and then before breaking out and then continuation upwards. Same thing. This is still the high that I talk about on all the crypto. I obviously prefer to see it break above and go higher because as you guys know, I don't trade crypto when it's in a bearish. I don't like to sell crypto, let's put it this way. There's nothing wrong with you selling crypto or other people looking at selling. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just me personally, I don't like to sell crypto and I only want to be buying or trading long if the opportunity comes. Okay, other than that, I'm just holding coins for a longer perspective. Not much here on Stellar, not much here on Ripple as well. Okay, so I think I'm going to wrap it up here pretty much, unless you guys have any additional pairs you want me to go over or additional market or any questions you want me to answer. I'm happy to spend a little bit time here to answer those. Earth, I think you're not, it's not like they gain the money you lose, right? Where do you think the money you lose go to, my friend? Right? Where do you think the people who deposit money into a broker once they lose all the money in the account, where do you think the money goes to? So think about that, Earth. I don't think you see it that way, but I'm trying to enlighten you. The money you deposit to a broker, if you lose all that money, where do you think the money goes to? It obviously goes to the broker, right? Think about it more logically. The broker acts as the middle person for you to trade or enter trades. But if you lose all the money in your account, where do you think the money goes to? It obviously goes to the broker because they allow you to trade, right? They allow you the intermediate people allow you to trade. So if you think about it, shouldn't brokers trying to make their client as profitable as possible since their income is from the spread? Yeah, of course their money is spread is one of their income, but is not their only income, right? Their income comes from, unfortunately to say, traders who blow their accounts because now the trader who blow their account to zero, then whatever money they deposited, the broker takes it and takes it legally. There's nothing wrong with that, right? Think about it. Yam basket. Yeah, this is yam basket, right? Um, I think yen overall is strength I talk about. So I like how there is kind of this descending channel. It's pretty much inverse related to dollar yen, right? We break this previous low, price had this impulse off followed by a correction. So I think this can likely to push up to the next high. This is identical to dollar yen, right? It's just inverse related, that's all. Okay, so that's how I see it. Link, yeah, I can talk about link. I personally don't see much here. I don't see as of a structure here compared to, let's say, maybe Ethereum or Litecoin. I think there at least some kind of development here, but I don't see much here on Link. I think there is potential like something like this. I don't even want to draw this out because it looks like we are more into a bearish price. This is the only structure that I see identifying. It looks like this push down, correct, and can potentially push down lower, right? So. I'm sorry, Earth. You gotta be a little bit more realistic, right? Of course they make profit. Of course they profit from spread, but where do you think the money lose to? It doesn't lose to the market. It lose to the brokers, right? So it's because there's so you gotta think about it. Every day people win money and people lose money. The broker just acts as an intermediate person in the middle, right? So you got to think about the more people, the brokers themselves also trade, right? The brokers themselves basically take your money to trade as well, right? So you often hear people, brokers are trading against you and things like that. Well, there's really nothing wrong with them trading against you either, if you think about it. So, especially if a trader is not profitable, they're going to trade against that non-profitable trader because they know whatever entry they take, I'm just going to go opposite, and that trader is likely to lose their money, right? So, and trying to make you think outside the box, Earth. What does it matter if they do that or do not, right? Like, it's not something you can control anyway, so why think about it too much? Any broker would do that. Any broker, so it's not about choosing which broker can will do that or not do that. Focus on what you can control. Right? What you can control is your own trading account, your entry, your stop loss, your take profit, things like that. What brokers do or not do is really out of your scope or out of anybody's scope. So it doesn't matter which broker you choose. You will never know if that broker is trading against you or with you or whoever, right? It really doesn't matter. So I'm trying to broaden your perspective. Think in terms of that. You know, don't worry about things you cannot control, right? So do I generally keep coins and on the exchange or withdraw them to a wallet? I mean, some brokers is a wallet if you think about it, right? So I generally do leave it on an exchange. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think they're safe enough as it is. So, but it's up to you, of course, if you want to keep your coins in on the broker exchange wallet or in a private wallet, or if you want to download it into a USB disk. It really doesn't matter. It's up to you. I mean, there's just so many different ways and all that. And I don't think too much about them, right? It's like money on a forex broker account. Well, like it's on a forex broker account, right? And I don't know about like I don't know about other countries and things like that, but in Canada there is a division called IROC and things like that. Story for another day, but um, basically they protect your capital, right? Because if this broker or exchange goes default or take the money around you, like they're going to compensate it because the brokers that are allowed in Canada are all certified by this organization. So basically, if they do anything wrong, this government organization will come in and they're basically acting as an insurance for your money, anyways. So I'm really not too worried. I really haven't even heard any case like this. Even if a broker loses money or goes default, they're gonna return all the money on their accounts anyways. So it doesn't matter too much. So. All right, everyone. So I'm going to wrap it up now if there's no other questions. I've been talking for an hour and 45 minutes almost. So, like I said, I am in those two positions, dollar yen and Swiss yen. We'll see how these goes. We'll preferably want to see maybe a correction here or something, and then just continue push down afterwards. That's probably what I want to see. And if you're looking at all the yen pairs. So look like Aussie yen, cat yen, the head and shoulder is kind of working, or at least it's playing out, at least from my view. Swiss yen, however, is not, but that's fine. I have a pretty wide stop loss, so we'll see how that goes. And I still like the overall price, so we'll see if this is going to reverse back up. And if that's the case, I'll just take a loss. If not, then I'd like the move to go down and look to see what will happen if we reach this low here. You're welcome, Victoria. I wouldn't enter Bitcoin. I kind of went over that earlier, but that's up to your choice, right? So, not here to do signals. So please don't ask me like how to enter and things like that. I give you a give everyone a more perspective on the overall direction and things like that. I mentioned if this is going to break above this high here and then continue afterwards, then I will be interested to the buy. If it does not, this can easily just push up here to this high here and then reverse down and then continue going down afterwards. So I don't think buying here while we're still in this correction is valid. I would wait for price to break out first and then continuation. That's my plan, of course. So it's not that this won't take off or anything, right? It's just up to your perspective and your trading plan. Dollar CAD is breaking out, is it? Is most of the dollar doing this now? All right, everyone. So I'm gonna wrap it up here. Hope to see you guys all next week. I will do what I do every week. I'll do a weekly trade recap videos on the two position I have, and if I enter more position on Thursday, Friday, I will update that as well. And I'm hoping to make another educational video tomorrow if I have time on other things. I will post that in my Telegram. So if you're new, you're welcome to join all my channels or platforms on my YouTube. If all this price action makes sense to you, you can learn everything for free here. All in my price action playlist. This is pretty much goes over every single things I talk about today. All the risk management, trading psychology, things like that, it's on here. Or you can go on my trading view if you to get analysis. I post all my analysis on TradingView, so you can get all my analysis, all my ideas, so to speak. These are not signals, alright? So don't think of them as signals. There are ideas of forecasting, things like that. And you can join my Telegram as well for all my updates, analysis, educational videos, etc., things like that. Okay. You're welcome, Rules Coffee. No problem. I've been doing this for a while, so I'm hoping to do that continuously for years to come. So, Earth, no problem. I don't mean it anything negative. I hope you don't take it the wrong way. I'm trying to help you, so I'm trying to give you some perspective from what I know and what I know. So, there's just too many other trading gurus out there who pretend they are something that they're not. There's just too many. I talked to too many victims of those where they pay for someone and then they didn't learn anything at all, and then they disappear or things like that, or they buy into people's signals and it doesn't work and things like that. All I'm trying to is help people to develop the correct trading habits, consistency, proper ways of risk management, trading psychology, things like that. It's just sad that in today's age, most of the things you see on social media and things like that, their sole purpose is to make money off you. Their sole purpose is to make money off you to try to sell you things and things like that. And it's just how the industry is. And why I'm doing this is another reason is because I'm in this industry. I've been trading for 8+ years, and I want to be trading for the next 30 years if possible. And I want to try to educate people who are not familiar with trading. Is not all what people show on social media is, right? I'm trying to do my best to show that, but of course I can't outbeat all those, I want to say scammers and people like that. I can't beat them, right? Because there's way more of them than me. But I hope these can spread to the right people, and the people who hear them can then spread to other people, then at least we can at least help other traders who are struggling or who are having inconsistency results, at least help them out in that sense. So I don't have Discord, but I have Telegram, VP King. You can find my Telegram here. I'll post it here. Okay, so that's really my goal here. Actually makes me a better trader to do all this. Uh, believe it or not, really. Like I'm a better trader when I can be a better trader when I teach people how to trade, or when I offer these educational lessons, videos, when I do these analysis, things like that. I think it actually makes me a better trader, to be honest. So I think that's overall just your perspective, right? Doing all this actually makes you a better trader, and I always encourage people to post analysis, share ideas, talk about any kind of ideas. Welcome to sharing my group or in channel. Make sure you journal down all your trades. This is like I can't stress this enough. Journal down all your trades so that you can review them, you can take a look at them, you know what mistakes you make and things like that. I often talk to traders who I coach or who I just briefly talk to. They don't journal any single trades. It's maybe a matter of pride or a matter of ego or a matter of just laziness. They don't want to journal their trades, and I'm like, well, how are you gonna get better if you don't journal your trades? It just doesn't make sense, right? It's just like you need to journal your trades so you find out what you did right and what you did wrong. And if you find out things you do wrong, then work on those aspects. Right? Don't just ignore it because you took several losses. And you don't want to journal your trade because it's kind of like your ego thing. Where like, oh, well, I took several losses. I don't even want to do these journals. Like, what does it do? I don't want to write them down because it's like embarrassing or whatever. It's not, right? You're trying to be a better trader. How is journaling your trades going to make you how is journaling your trade a bad thing for yourself? It's not really, right? So it's just about getting better overall as a trader, right? No one said trading is going to be easy, right? Unfortunately, social media portrays it this way, but it's really not easy as those typical guru will tell you, right? They're telling you it's easy to learn from them because they want to make money off you. That's pretty much the sole thing. Like they're showing you profits, results, they're showing you expensive toys, things like that. They're showing you things that you want to see because they want you to believe if you buy into them or pay them, you're gonna get the same result. But it's really not the case, right? It's like professional trader takes years to become a professional trader. So it really doesn't come in a few months or things like that. You basically need to lose money. You basically need to feel that trading psychology, the emotion, the fear of missing out, the greed, all that you need to personally experience in order to be a better trader. You don't just learn all that by reading a book or someone who give you a course and then you learn all that by paper. It doesn't work that way. It really doesn't, right? So yeah, so I'm just being honest with all that. Obviously everyone sees it differently, right? So sometimes people may or may not agree, and I respect that. I don't usually try to talk over anybody, and if people don't agree, and I respect their opinion, and I move on to other things, right? Most important thing is just drop your ego, right? Drop your ego, and everything will be easier. If you cannot drop your ego, if you have that ego to prove people that you are right all the time, whether it's your analysis, whether it's your approach, whether it's your strategy, whether it's like proving others that, oh, I make so much return, profitable. Who are these guys talking about risk management? I'm gonna trade without risk management. I'm gonna trade without stop loss, things like that. Um, you know, it might work out for you in the short term, but it may not work out for you in the long term. That's really what it is. So just understand that, and that will be a one step further or ahead than a lot of traders who are struggling with this concept, right? The moment you drop your ego is the moment you're going to be a better trader. Okay, so all right, so I'm gonna wrap it up now, guys. I'm gonna wrap it up now. Like I said, welcome to message me on Telegram or other places if you have any questions. And I shall see you guys all next time. All right. Thank you very much and have a good day, everyone.